All right. So I'm online on YouTube again, and uh, today's topics are well the situation around free speech in Sweden. Oh, sound. This should do it. Uh, we got the free speech situation in Sweden, which isn't looking good at all. It hasn't looked good for a long time, and it's getting worse. We had a situation with the mainstream churches in Norway and Sweden, the Church of Norway, the Church of Sweden, and how they are bowing down to Islam. And we have the thing about Jeremy Corbyn. Uh, Jakub from Poland says, "Give it the moment." Yes, 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 Jakub. That's why I haven't actually started talking about the subjects yet, but I will. Uh, Hello, Stoffes Fiske. I think I might know you. Archie Demble says, "Hello, best regard from Poland." Well, best regard to you too. And I will talk about the subjects. I will read comments. I will prioritize comments that follow with a super chat. Just letting you know. So if you send a super chat, I will read your comment first. Let's see, was there something else? Yes, you can now get merchandise from me. I'll put a link here in a moment. 1 second, and we'll have a link. So let's see here. So you can order T-shirts and coffee mugs from me now, and well, feel free to do so. I appreciate that. So there are two Polish people here now. I love the Poles, and I'm going to Poland in 1 month from now, or actually a little less than 1 month. I'm going to Poland on March 15th to Gdansk, and I'm staying there for 4 days. Hopefully, I will be able to interview someone in Poland about what's going on there. But otherwise, I will just interview some of the people that I travel with and just document what's going on. So it seems like we're getting some people joining us here. So let's begin with let's take a look at the camera. Let's begin with talking about free speech in Sweden, because well, they are planning to change the basic laws of Sweden, and I did translate it as constitution before, but apparently that translation wasn't really correct. It should be translated as the basic laws of Sweden. So let's go with that translation. What's going on is that there is a proposition from the Swedish government that is about to be voted over in the Swedish Parliament, and first of all, uh, since it's a change of a basic law, they have to vote on it twice, and there will have to be a vote. There will have to be a general election in between those. So they can't just change it. They have to first vote on it, and it has to get through Parliament once. Then they have to vote on it again after general election this fall. So we can pray for a miracle that the Sweden Democrats get a majority in Parliament or something like that, because that might be the only thing that stops this change. What they want to do is the following. They want to change the decree on freedom of the press and the basic law on freedom of speech. These are the laws that regulate well, internet publications in Sweden. And one of the things that they propose is to ban publication of personal information if it goes against privacy. Sounds like a good thing, doesn't it? Well, not really, because the thing is this. This is public information. And what they want to change is that instead of letting everyone have access to public information, only media that is recognized, well, I was going to say the mainstream media, but the proposition is that only, quote, professional media operators, close quote, and, quote, serious digging journalism, close quote, will be allowed access to these databases. So really, this law is about stopping alternative media. I can't see it any other way. They're after people like me. So this is one thing. Then there is another change that is underway too, but that's not in this law. But it's in another proposition that's on its way too, and that is about the laws regarding spying, or well, it's concerning foreign spying, or that's what they say. So the primary aim of that law is news reporting of military or police actions that affect Sweden's relationships to other countries and intergovernmental organizations. However, who gets to decide? Who gets to decide this? Who gets to decide which news reporting harms those relationships? Well, the law is written it's written in such a way that any relationships that Sweden have with other countries or with intergovernmental organizations is covered. They can all be considered peace and security, and the government then wants the right to go after journalists already if they suspect that they intend to write an article for publication, and protection of sources will be abolished. So that's kind of what's going on. Susie Cat says, can't we just agree that the Muslims are the enemy and need to be eradicated? Well, actually, no, I don't want to eradicate anyone, but we need to stop Islam. There's something wrong with my merchandise link. Let's have another look. I don't know what's wrong. I'll post it again and see. I'll try to open a link myself and see what happens. Oh wow! I don't know what happened here. Okay. Okay. If you look at that link and you click on right above that link where it says oops, that page can't be found, you will actually see that it says merchandise. Click there, and also there is a link in the box below. Let's see if that link works. It should work. Let's have a look. Yes, it works. I don't know what's wrong with that link. Aidan Philip Reed says, are you voting SD, Sweden Democrats? Well, actually, I'm not voting in Sweden because I gave up my Swedish citizenship in 2013, and since 2013 I'm a Norwegian citizen. So I don't get to vote in Sweden, but I do have an opinion on what's going on in Sweden. And Sweden is a warning example to other Western countries and to the rest of the world. Don't do like Sweden, at least not what Sweden is doing now. If Sweden would turn around, that would be wonderful. And if that would happen and Sweden would start doing sane things, I would say, look at Sweden. Look what they did. You should do that too. Copy that. But as long as that won't happen, I will say, don't do like Sweden. I will use Sweden as a warning example. I don't think it's fun. I just think it's necessary. Jakub from Poland says, is it true that if someone knows your name and surname that he can freely obtain your address? Well, in Sweden, generally yes, unless you have a protected address. Stoffe Hallberg says, what do you think about Superman? Oh, I like Superman. At least the old comics, when he was actually fighting for peace, justice, and the American way of life. I don't know what they have done to it now, but that what Superman used to be about? Archie Demble says, "You are politically incorrect?" Question mark. I think I'm pretty politically incorrect in a Swedish context, at least. Have we got something else to talk about? Maybe I should bring up the Dhimmi churches to talk about that. Let's see. It started with a Swedish bishop in Växjö, and he well, in Växjö, which is a city in the south of Sweden, in Småland, the Muslim Association they want to have Muslim prayer calls, and they applied for that. And the bishop in the Church of Sweden, the bishop of Växjö in the Church of Sweden, in that diocese, he welcomes this and says that he is looking forward to this. He thinks this is a good idea. I have been at odds with this bishop before. His name is, I think, Fredrik Modéus. Yes, his name is Fredrik Modéus. I have discussed with him before. I had a row with him on Twitter around Christmas when he was trying to use the Christmas gospel as an argument for open borders, which is completely insane because, Joseph and Mary and Jesus, they moved to the close area to Egypt, not to the other side of the planet. They worked for their own living, at least I assume so. I don't think Joseph was sitting around all day collecting welfare. I don't think you could, by the way. They didn't cause any trouble, and once it was safe to return, they did. And I told the bishop that. He didn't respond to that, by the way. But it's not only this bishop in the Church of Sweden who is a Dhimmi, and a Dhimmi means someone who submits to Islam sort of willingly, in case someone wonders. Dhimmi was a concept is a concept under Islamic rule. Under Islamic rule, Christians and Jews can get the status of protected peoples if they submit, if they pay the special tax, which is whatever the local imam says it is, and if they submit, if they accept being second or third class citizens. And this is what the bishop, what he does, knowingly or unknowingly, I don't know. He should study the history of Lebanon, where the Christians were nice and let the Muslims in. And now Lebanese Christians are refugees themselves in Europe, in North America, and so on. However, the Church of Norway, a Norwegian alternative media site, called up the Church of Norway and asked them what they think about it. And the Norwegian bishop who responded, who's kind of the archbishop, the Church of Norway doesn't really have one, but she's the premier bishop or something like that, said that the Church of Norway agrees with this Swedish bishop. And she said that she was speaking for all the bishops in the Church of Norway, that they all agreed on this. So it's really sad. It's really sad to see Christians who have misunderstood the gospel and the Bible this much, and they are just turning into dhimmis. It's just stupid. And stupid and dangerous. Okay, Marion Mann says, can Scandinavian understand each other's languages? That is Swedish, Danish, Finnish, and Norwegian. Well, Swedish, Norwegian, and Danish are kind of similar. With some effort, we can understand each other, but Finnish is a completely different language. So a Swede and a Finn won't understand each other if they speak their own mother tongues, while a Swede and a Norwegian should, a Norwegian and a Dane should, a Swede and a Dane not that much, but we can kind of get along if we try to, if we put an effort to it. I do, but I have traveled a lot in the different Scandinavian countries. Let's see. And maybe we should talk a little about Corbyn too. It has been revealed that he was giving out information to a Czechoslovak agent in the 1980s, and or a diplomat. But the diplomat back then was a spy. Everyone knew this, but he didn't, or I don't know if he knew or not. The diplomat who is named Sarkozy something. It just says Mr. Sarkozy here. I could read the entire article later. I don't remember his first name. But he was expelled from the UK by Margaret Thatcher. He now lives in Bratislava in Slovakia, I think. And he said that he had several meetings with Jeremy Corbyn, and he said, quote, Mr. Corbyn was an honest man, but stupid, close quote. So Corbyn was probably one of the useful idiots then. And he is leader of Labour. I mean, why on earth do you don't want a useful idiot as Labour leader, even though the other I mean, that's the way socialism works, or socialists work. They are either evil or stupid, and Corbyn might be one of the stupid kind. So let's see here. Susie Cat says all the socialists are together. Yeah, it's not that big of a difference between a socialist, a social democrat, and a national socialist. They have their infighting going on, but I mean they have the same basic ideas, really. Aidan Philip Reed says, I can't stand Corbyn. I agree, I don't like him either. And I don't know. I don't think Corbyn couldn't win, could he? I mean, I don't really know about the UK, but I think Corbyn. People in Britain, they realize he's stupid, right? No, Stoffe Hallberg says, what do you think about the Sweden Democrats? I think that well, they are probably the best option in Swedish politics right now. Although I think they are way too left for me. I mean, I think they are basically social democrats. However, the other parties are all neo-left, cultural Marxists, something like that. Ny vänster, as they say in Swedish. So, given the choice between the Sweden Democrats or any of the other parties that are currently in the Swedish parliament, I would go for the Sweden Democrats. Not because they are that good, but because the others are that bad. Jakub from Poland says, Mog for Prime Minister. Yes, I agree. I want Mog for PM of the UK. That would be great. So, I mean, a question we could ask ourselves here is, who really won the Cold War? Because in theory, the right wing won the Cold War. Communism fell, the Berlin Wall went down, the Soviet Union collapsed, there was no more East Germany, the Poles were freed, and they kind of are still freed, but they have to fight the EU now. And this is the thing, the old school communists, they lost. But what happened then was they regrouped and they started with identity politics. And they have been able to poison minds, poison the well, they have been able to poison the minds of the youth. I mean, people born in the 90s and later, they have really been poisoned by these people. And of course, leftists have always flocked to places where they can influence others, like teachers, librarians, journalists, things like that. However, it means that maybe the left lost the battle on economic policies, kind of, but instead they won the battle on culture, and that's the problem, because in Sweden there is no conservatism. I mean, not really. The Conservative Party is kind of left. Moderaterna, the Moderate Coalition Party, they might want lower taxes, but they are cultural Marxists, and There is no conservatism. The closest you get is the Sweden Democrats or Social Democrats. Little sister, I wonder if that's my sister. She said interesting live chat. Oh, okay, good, thank you. And Stoffe Hallberg says, what do you think about Nordiska motståndsrörelsen, the Nordic resistance movement? They are not my cup of tea. I am not a national socialist. I'm not a Nazi. I'm not an identitarian. I'm about ideas. That's what I'm about. I'm about defending Western civilization. And Western civilization is based upon Judeo-Christian ideas. It's based upon the heritage from Jerusalem, Athens, and Rome. We got the civilization from the Jews, through the Greek and the Romans, and the best combination with this is, of course, the Anglo-American tradition of liberty. So, no, I'm not fond of the Nordic resistance movements, Nordiska motståndsrörelsen. They're just a bunch of confused socialists. I mean, you have identitarianism on the left and you have it on the so-called right, but they're all a bunch of a bunch of socialists, really. Valhalla Dome says, don't ever fall for the lies of the Moderaterna, the moderates. I agree. I was once a card-carrying member of the moderate coalition party, but I am no longer. And if anyone asks me about Swedish politics or about this specific party, I will tell them that you cannot trust the moderate coalition party, or actually you can trust them. You can trust the moderates to be unreliable, that they will do whatever just to get into power. Susie Cat says Denmark. Yeah, I like Denmark. I'm actually going to Denmark tomorrow. I will only stay for 1 day in Copenhagen. I'm taking the ferry from Oslo to Copenhagen and I'm taking the ferry back. So I will only be in Copenhagen for about 5 hours or something like that. Hopefully I will be able to interview someone there, but I don't know yet. We'll see what happens. CCC says socialism is cancer. Yes, really, that's a good way of putting it. It really is. While Stoffe Hallberg says, what do you think about Trump? I think he's the best U.S. president since Reagan. I mean, you might discuss his language, the way he speaks, but look at what he does. Look at the fruits of the tree. Look at what he does and his policies. The things he's done since he became president are just wonderful. Even though he has had to fight a lot of opposition, not only from the Democrats, but also from his own party, from the deep state. There's so much going on. So just look at what he's been able to achieve. And I visited the Midwest recently. I have been there twice. I was in the Midwest in August, September, and then I was back in January, February. And what I saw in the Midwest was a booming economy, happy people. Of course, I was in the rural or semi-rural areas, not in the big cities like Chicago, Milwaukee, places like that. Those places are different. But if you go to smaller towns, things are great, and Trump's policies are really working. So I won't be able to vote for him because I won't be a US citizen in time for that. But I will be happy to work for the re-election of President Trump. CCC says Trump visited hospital and police station right here in South Florida. Very hearty meetings. Yeah, I think so. I mean, I wasn't there, but I assume so. Happy to hear that. Valhalla Dome says, true, you can trust them to want power, but I'm in trust to help Sweden and make a start to clean up the mess. Denmark is on the right track. I agree that Denmark is on the right track, and Sweden is not. And the moderates, they will do the whatever just to get in power, even if it means that they won't even get their own policies through. So so that's the way it is. And by the way, I would like to thank everyone who is in the live stream right now, in the chat, everyone's watching. I would like for you to know that that without you there is no me. So I really depend on you. So I'm very grateful for all the people who are following my channel, the people who are donating, whatever you do. I'm really happy about that. Psalm 122:6 says, "Are you moving to the US?" Well, that's the plan. I'm working on it. And by the way, I'll post a few links and see how this works. If you want to, you can send a super chat. You can also donate through PayPal. Or you can go to, let's see, we got Patreon over here. ECC says, Florida welcomes you anytime. I will be happy to go to Florida, although I will probably not move to Florida. I don't want to get eaten by an alligator. Oh, that's a joke. But yeah, that's going to be great. Let's see. There was something else here. Oh, I can't find it right now. Saltgrat says, thanks for your brave efforts from Arizona, USA. Well, thank you for your kind words. I intend to visit every US state, but that might take 25 years or something if I visit two states every year. So I will go to Arizona, I will go to Florida, I will even go to California. Aidan Philip Reed says, when you get too much traction, you will probably want to go to Hatreon. Yes, I have thought about that. That I need to register there too. Let's see. CCC says we need more Republican voters in Florida. I agree that you do, but Florida is not where I plan to move. The Yassi one says California will be a separate country soon, so you must hurry. I don't think California actually will secede, although I kind of think they should, but I don't think they will. Stoffer Hallberg says, what do you think about us? Do you mean about the US? I love the US. Us? Well, depends on what you mean, but if you're who I think you are, well, I like you. Wendy Dodd says, I will show you around California. Oh, I'm looking forward to that. And CCC says California needs to break up in two. Yeah, I saw that. I don't know if that's really going to happen, the new and old California thing. Although it seemed sane to me. If rural California is more conservative, then that could be a good thing for them. Tiago Ferreira says Finland rules. I like Finland, but they have some disturbing things going on there. They don't really have freedom of speech either. It's not just Sweden, Norway. It's Finland too. So they need to make sure they get freedom of speech again. Because you know what started me off on this channel was the Tynkkynen case, and he was sentenced to a fine of 300 euros for hate speech because he posted things about Islam, and then he had to pay 300 euros in a fine, which is $330 or something like that. I don't know exactly, but something like that. And I know he was called up by the police again a few weeks ago. So I don't know how to I don't know how that will go. I haven't heard anything more. I've been trying to look into it, but he's been really invisible online since then. Uh, let's see. The Yassi one says once all the DACA babies will be sent back, California may get liberated again. Well, I hope so. Valhalla Dome says donations is a bit difficult as I don't even have a credit card, PayPal, or whatever. Give me a good, easy, and safe way to donate, and I can consider. I don't really know how to do that. Should I give you a PO box or something? Maybe I should register one. CCC says not enough vodka in dull Finland. There are nice places in Finland. I like the country, and I was for a while considering moving there, but after having learned what's going on there, plus I've been told that you're not even allowed to make money as a YouTuber in Finland, so I can't move there. And now I'm heading for the US anyway. Oh, Stoffe Hallberg says I meant USA. Well, I am moving there. I mean, I'm working on that, so that should really tell you everything. And I like the US if they have a good president or if they have a bad president. I still like the American people, but right now it's really great. Okay. Aidan Philip Reed says EU is Europeans' main enemy. Well, sure. Or well, EU is one of the is a part of the problem. Uh, Another part is political correctness that's kind of tied with the EU, and then you have Islamic immigration. All these things are kind of tied together. Andrew Perry says my ancestry in America runs back about 4,000 years, so I assume you must have some Native American ancestry then. CCC says where are you moving to in the US? Well, I'm moving to a part of the Midwest. Wendy Dodd says you could probably get a prepaid credit card to donate. I think they have that stuff in the US at least. I don't know where Valhalla Dome lives, so I don't know what the conditions are where he lives, but I think that exists in the US. Jacob from Poland says, give a try to a cryptocurrency wallet. I'm not much into cryptocurrencies. Well, the problem with cryptocurrencies is kind of the same problem as with fiat money. Cryptocurrencies are still based on nothing. I mean, we should get back to the gold standard. That's what we should do. Uh, and if someone would launch an electronic currency backed on gold, I would be all down. I would be all for it. But I haven't seen that happening. CCC says, make America great again. I agree. Aidan Philip Reed says, what do you think of Charlemagne Price? I don't know. What's the Charlemagne Price? Please inform us. Andrew Perry says, Seneca Indians of New York, part of the 7 tribes of the 7 nations. Yeah, I think a lot of people in the US have at least some Native American ancestry. I think if I have children in the future, they might very well have some Native American ancestry. Supreme Overlord says gold silver standard severely limits economic growth. I'm not sure about that. Depends on what you mean with economic growth, because when you had the gold standard, there was basically no inflation. But then they went off the gold standard, and you had all this inflation, and inflation is basically a bad thing. It's not a good thing. But I'm not an economist. I just dabble a little in the field. That's not really my main thing. My main thing is defending Western civilization, and I mean I'm kind of a cultural warrior. I focus more on that. Although I'd like to talk a little about socialism sometimes because I really don't like socialism. The Yassi one says every time I get engaged in a discussion about Trump and defend him from the lies spread and mainstream media get generate uproar. I live in the same country as you do. How do you tackle that? I don't discuss much with random people anymore. I mean, I assume then you mean people here in Norway, or maybe in Sweden. I don't know, but I live in Norway. I grew up in Sweden, but I live in Norway since 2006. I have tried to discuss with Scandinavians, with Norwegians, with Swedes, but most people are just too brainwashed. So I don't really see a point debating with people one on one unless they start discussing, and then I will just give them the facts. And if they can't accept the facts, I'll say, I'm sorry, I can't help you. We have nothing to discuss if you won't accept reality. Marion Mann says, why did you leave Sweden? I left Sweden back in 2006, basically because I needed a job. I had a job in Sweden, but it wasn't very well. Or I mean, well, the conditions weren't that good, and I was trying to find a better job where I live, but it was difficult. So I decided that I will I will go to Oslo, Norway, and look for jobs there instead, and that's what I did. And I've been here ever since. And in 2013, I decided to become a Norwegian citizen, which people thought was strange, but well, that's what I did. Uh, Little sister says, looking very sharp today. Oh, okay, thank you. I got this shirt that I'm wearing. Well, I got it from my fiance. So it's well, I like it. Let's see. Aidan Philip Reed says Charlemagne Prize is a Western European Leaders Award for contribution for European genocide. Doesn't sound like a good thing then. And the Yassi one says those discussions just can't be had here. Well, it's difficult. I know a few people in Norway who are kind of sane, and you can discuss it with them, but discussing with random people or even with people you kind of know, but you know they're politically correct, it's just a waste of time and energy that could be used for better things, like making YouTube videos, writing articles. I think it's more efficient to try to spread truth that way. Psalm 122:6 says, are taxes high in Norway? Yes. I think they're even higher in Sweden, but yes, they are. Aidan Philip Reed says, how many babies do you plan to make with your fiance? Oh, wow. Well, I'll leave that up to God. It's not in my hands to decide that. Okay, so we've been on for about 40 minutes. There are 31 people in the chat right now. Well, there are 31 people watching, but that's kind of the same thing. And for anyone who just arrived, or anyone who's here, thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate your support. And well, my channel isn't possible without you. Without you, there is no me. So I'm really grateful about that. So thank you for being here. Thank you for following me. And yeah, I'm really happy about that. Kids Are Mean says, love the channel. Thanks for the content. If you find yourself in Northeast Iowa and need a place to stay, my door is always open. Well, thank you, Kids Are Mean. Little sister says, did you know did, did you know that Ylvis almost had a career in the US? I think I heard about that, yeah. Valhalla Dome says, thanks, we are always here. Well, I appreciate it. And Solskjaer says, thanks, great chat today. Yeah, thank you very much for that. Well, for your kind words. Susie Cat says, they sent men here to try to steal our women and our children. I assume you're referring to the Islamic immigration wave to the West. I kind of have to agree because if you look at the men who arrive from Islamic countries, they are young young adults. Uh, they're not as young as they claim to be usually, but they are young. They are in fighting age, and they say they flee war. Some do, of course. I mean, some actually do escape war, but I don't think. I think most of them are just coming for financial reasons. They want the benefits, and I understand. I understand a part of this, but I don't understand why Europe and Canada is letting them in. That's the part I won't get. And yes, Aidan Philip Reed says all military-aged men. Yes, that's correct. And I'll give you a piece of my family history here. My grandparents moved from Finland to Sweden in the 1950s. My grandfather was born in 1925, so he was in the continuation war, not in the winter war because he was too young, but he was in the continuation war, the war between the Soviets and Finland from 1941 to 1944. So he was there from he was 18 years old, 1943. He was risking his life to defend his country against a foreign invasion, against a communist invasion. If he would have left, if he would have tried to escape to Sweden or to some, I mean, Sweden would be the obvious, because Sweden was the only country who wasn't at war in the neighborhood. But if he would have done that, he would never have been able to show his face again in Finland. He would have been considered a traitor, a coward, and he would have been. And I have been thinking, because he died in the year 2000, and I have been thinking about what he would have said about this migration wave, and I don't think he would have used any nice words. I think he would have called them cowards, people who leave women and children behind. He wouldn't have any nice words to say about that. Tire QW33N says, do you think Sweden will use military in no-go zones? I don't think that will happen in the short run. It might happen eventually. You never know. The SU1 says, looks like you're not leaving the chat. Let's see. Get a beer. Where is this? Oh, you will be here for a while. I will be here for, I assume, for maybe another hour, 45 minutes, an hour. It depends. But I think since you're Norwegian, you should, or at least live in Norway, you should recognize this thing. I think I'll keep to that right now. I want to be in control of myself when I live stream. So no beer for me right now. No. Maurice Plow says, let's see. I find it easy to destroy immigrants' assertions that they should all be allowed, or they should be allowed to immigrate by clarifying that all of Europe and North American countries were created by settlers, not immigrants. That's a valid point. Although I do intend to emigrate to the US, but I'm not asking for any special favors at all. I just want a green card. That's all. Tiago Ferreira says, "Is that vodka?" No, it's Norwegian fizzy water. It's pretty good actually. Not as good as the stuff I was drinking when I was in the Midwest, but it's good. Free Tanker says, "Förstår du dansk?" Which means, "Do you understand Danish?" Well, yes, I do understand Danish. I actually watched a clip with a Dane earlier today who was talking to Swedish television. Okay, it was texted, subtitled in Swedish, but I understood what he said anyway because I've been to Denmark a lot. Let's see. Yeah. Andrew Perry says America is multicultural, which makes us the greatest country in the world, sort of speak. Well, America used to be a melting pot society. That's not the same thing as multiculturalism. In a melting pot society, you have different ingredients that you put together and you create unity. You create a product out of from these different ingredients. But in multiculturalism, these things stay separate. Instead of getting some kind of togetherness. You will get separation and different groups fighting each other. And what multiculturalism really is, as I said when I spoke to that Canadian gentleman a few days ago, you should watch that video. You can find it through my webpage, swedespeaks.com. I was interviewed by a Canadian gentleman at the Freedom Report, and that was great. What I said to him then was that really, when people talk about multiculturalism, for instance, if we talk about multiculturalism in Norway or in Sweden, we are not referring to Polish sausage or Argentinian dancing or not even Indian food or something like that, or Vietnamese food. No, it is always about Islam. There's always something Islamic related to this. It's not about different cultures. It's just about that they want a new monoculture, which is the Islamic one. So that's my take on multiculturalism. Red Skull says, "What do you think of the 120 decibel women's march in Berlin today?" I haven't looked into that. 127 dB, I think they are highlighting some very important issues, but I haven't looked into them more closely, and I haven't looked into the march, so I can't really say much about it. I should look at it when I get time. Wendy Dodd says, "Well said on melting pot versus multiculturalism." Oh, thank you. I spend a lot of time thinking about this. Tire QW33N says, "Does Swedish media realize how the rest of the world sees them through exposure to alternative media?" I think that the Swedish mainstream media pretends not to understand, but I think they probably have some understanding and it worries them a lot. And recently in Sweden, 7 of the 8 parties in parliament not only agree that they want to stop free speech, they also agree that they are going to give more government subsidies to the press. But those subsidies won't go to the alternative media. Those subsidies are going to go to the mainstream media. I mean, they wouldn't fund me. I'm not getting funding from any government, and I don't want it either, by the way. I'm just saying. But so the alternative media has to fight mainstream media, and mainstream media is funded by government. Oh, I kind of went off the rails here, but that's what's going on. Stephen 01001 says, "When I was young, I never met a person from another country. Now they're everywhere. This influx of immigrants is a relatively new thing." Well, I'm not sure where you are, in America maybe, or somewhere else. I don't know. When I was, and I don't know how old you are either, but yeah, it's a relatively new thing, this influx, although the US was always an immigrant country, kind of, although they also, people assimilated. Sweden, sometimes they say that Sweden always was an immigrant country. That's not really true. Sweden had homegrown minorities, the Sami in the north, Forest Finns, which were and they were descendants of people who arrived from Finland centuries ago. And Finland used to be Eastern Swedish, so Eastern Sweden. So it's not strange that there was an influx of people. People moved both ways, and they had that. And then they had some immigrant waves to Sweden historically. You had the Walloons who arrived from, well, today's Belgium in the 1600s, and I am descended from some of them. But the people who arrived, there were small groups. They assimilated. Sometimes they actually stayed separate for a long time. With the Walloons, most of them assimilated within a few generations. But then you had like a core group that stayed in the same workplaces for generations and who still spoke French with each other until the 1800s. But it didn't cause any trouble. Just like the Sami, okay, there were some conflict between Sami and Swedes up in the north, but none of these groups tried to impose Sharia. None of these groups started civil wars. Nothing like that. Let's see. Free Tanker says, "How much could the Sweden Democrats change? It seems like they could only contain damage at best." I don't know. It depends on the video they released a few months ago. Because there's a general election coming up in Sweden in September. That one was more radical than I expected them to be. And I don't know what they would actually do in parliament if they would or what they would do if they would be in the government. However, I think the Sweden Democrats should only form a government if they can form a government with their own majority. Otherwise, they should do what the Danish People's Party, Dansk Folkeparti, did. So I don't know, but anyway, a larger Sweden democratic influence in Swedish politics, I think that would be a good thing, and hopefully they would be able to at least stop the influx of Islamic immigrants or migrants. That's really what I want. Tire QW33N says, "Are there homeless citizens in Sweden?" Yes, there are. There, I think there are a lot of them in Stockholm and also in some other cities. Valhalla Dome says, "I am still in regular contact with friends in Sweden. Yes, most people really realize there is a big issue, but if they can openly talk about it, is worse too." Well, it's difficult to talk about it openly in Sweden or even in Norway. I think Denmark is better on this. I think the Danes are the most outspoken ones, at least of Sweden, Norway, Denmark, and Finland. I don't know about Iceland. The Yassi one says, "Islamization serves one purpose: demolishing countries in order to be able to create global government. They think that Islam will be easier to govern." They might think so, the Yassi, and I think they are terribly wrong. And I really say, leftists should study. They should study the history of Iran and see what happened there. When Muslims and the left teamed up to depose the Shah, and they did, and what happened to the left after that? They were hanged by the Muslims. Where is the Iranian left today? They live in Stockholm and in Los Angeles and in Oslo. They don't live in Iran. But for some reason, they won't learn by history. If they did, they wouldn't be leftists or even globalists or something like that. Tire QW33N sent me a super chat, $5. Thank you very much. And he says, "Thanks for answering our questions." Well, I'm happy that there are people here who donate, and also I'm very happy there are people here talking to me, and I can address whatever comes up in the chat. And if nothing comes up, I'll go back to the three things I was thinking of. But yeah, so we can have a good time. I'm very happy that you're here. The Yassi one says, "Exactly. Yeah, well, yeah. Well, we can share to that." And yeah, that's the way it goes. So the Yassi one is of Polish background, I think. And well, Poland is a very interesting country, and I'm going there on March 15th. So any Poles watching, you could send me a message through my Facebook page, or you can send an email. You can find my email address if you look at about on my channel. And I'd be happy to meet with some of you and talk to you if you're anywhere close Gdansk. If you would be able to come to Gdansk March 16, March 17, March 18, that would be great. I would love to interview some people in Poland about what's going on in Poland, what you think about what the EU is trying to do to Poland, all these things. That would be great. But anyway, I will be in Poland. If I will be able to interview someone or not, I don't know. I was actually a Norwegian group. They are actually paying for my trip and my hotel, and I'm very happy about that because they just told me that they'll bring me along, and I don't have to pay for the trip. I don't have to pay for the hotel. The only thing I need money for on this trip is well, whatever I'll eat and drink. So I'm very happy, and I've been thinking of going to Poland for a long time. I haven't been to Poland since 1997 when I was 19 years old. So I'm happy to see Poland again and see how well the difference from when I was there last time, some 20 years ago. Oh yeah. The Jessic says that he has been to Norway since he was a child, or has been in Norway since he was a child. And yeah, that's great. So I assume you follow Polish politics then. Let's see what else is in here. Arno Wisp says leftists are going to be the death of us if they keep handing us over to Islamists. That is exactly what I say. I always say that political correctness is the inner threat, while Islam is the outer threat. By now, we could argue that Islam is also an inner threat because it has been imported to the West. But if it hadn't been for political correctness and these kind of left-wing ideas, we wouldn't have Islam in the West to begin with. Maybe we would have a few, but they would have been like in Sweden. There was, I think, 5 Muslims in 1930. Now there are an unknown number. According to some calculations, there are perhaps 1 million Muslims in Sweden, as compared to five of them, something like five, in the 1930s. And Wendy Dodd just sent me a super chat of $20. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. I'm very happy for all of you being here. I'm happy for the super chats. I'm just happy about everything right now. Wendy Dodd says, thanks, Swede. Taking my son to see 1517 to Paris. I'm not really sure what 1517 to Paris is, but I hope you will have a good time, whatever that is. If it's a movie or if you're going to Paris or whatever. Too. Thank you for joining us. And the Jazzy one just said, I don't like the governing party in Poland as they are radical Christians, but in this time it's the best. Keeps Poland protected from Eurabia. Well, I think we might agree on some of this and disagree on some of this, but well, I guess I would call them maybe radical Catholic Christians or something. I don't know, but they're doing, as far as I can see, they are doing a good job, at least a much better job than well, the Norwegian government, the Swedish government, and so on. And the Jazzy one just sent me 200 Norwegian kroner. Thank you very much for that. Let's see. Tiago Ferreira says radicalism sucks. Yes, it does. I agree. Free Tanker says, why would you emigrate to the US and where in the US? Well, to be honest with you, Free Tanker, a year ago when I started with this channel, I was thinking about a relocation plan because I thought what I do might put me at risk and I might not be able to stay in Norway in the long run. And I was thinking of moving either to Estonia or to Poland. Those were my two main options, as I could see. For one thing, it's cheaper to live there, so I wouldn't need that much money. And the politics in these countries are better than in Scandinavia. So I would be safe there and I wouldn't need as much money to live as I need in Norway. But then I met my girlfriend, who is now my fiance, and she happens to live in the Midwest. And I always had a dream of moving to America, but I never saw the possibility. So she kind of inspired me. But I don't want to come on a fiancé visa or a marriage visa. So I'm working on coming there on a different kind of visa. Maybe a journalism visa, maybe a business visa, maybe a work visa. We'll see what works out. So, well, the Midwest, yeah, I could say Wisconsin. I'll give you that. I won't give out the exact location, but I can tell you Wisconsin. And from what I've seen, I love Wisconsin. I know they are a little crazy in Milwaukee and Madison, but I'm talking about small town Wisconsin, which I think is a good place. Wendy Dodd, Americans thwarting terrorist attack on train, a movie. I wouldn't go to. Oh, that movie, right? Of course, that movie. Yeah, I should see that one too. Lars Agerbäck says, welcome, Lars Agerbäck, says, sorry, do you still have hand grenade attacks in Sweden, or have they run out? I haven't heard about any explosions the last couple of days. I haven't heard of any this week, Lars Agerbäck, but I'm sure, or sadly, I'm sure there will be more attacks. Hopefully not, but I think that's going to happen. The Jazzy one says, just tell them that you are 13 years old from Syria. You will get in no time. I think that will work better in Canada. I don't know about the US these days. Free Tanker says, Wisconsin is the most Danish state in America. Oh, it is. Interesting. It could be, because I was at something called Old World Wisconsin in September, and they recreate, history from the 1800s. So they had a Danish village. That was pretty interesting. They had a Norwegian village, they had a Danish village, they had a Polish village, they had a German village, they had a Finnish village, they didn't have a Swedish village. The Norwegian village was the smallest one, which kind of amused me a little. So I had to ask, and I was told that when the Norwegians arrived, all the good land was already taken. Let's see. Kids are mean says, my daughter and her kids are at Wisconsin Dells skiing this weekend. Oh, that sounds nice. I haven't I haven't been skiing since I was 19, 21 years ago. I guess I should take that up. That would be good. I try to work out these days. I call it my 40 years crisis. I realize that I'm getting older, so I have to take care of myself, which is also why I try to avoid. Well, I try to live better now. I try to eat better, but I'm not perfect. Anyway, uh, Puskasu Vlad says Corbyn is a puppet of Soros. Yeah, I don't know about Corbyn. I mean, he is. I think he's pretty stupid. Uh, I mean, that's my impression. Lars Agerbeck says the Danish Prince consort just died. Have the Swedish royal family ever commented on the refugee situation in Sweden? Any controversies? As far as I know, the Swedish royal family hasn't said a word about this situation. I I think that the king of Sweden is probably more right wing than he publicly expresses. I'm sorry about Prince Henrik, by the way. Really, I mean I liked him. He said some crazy stuff sometimes, but I liked him. And the things he said a year ago or so, he was obviously losing his mind a little. So when the royal family actually had to tell the media that he is suffering from, was it Alzheimer's? I'm not sure what he had. There was something, but I liked him. So sorry to see him. Well, that's the thing. That's the way life goes. We live and we die, and if we're happy we go to heaven. But I'm sorry about that. Mark Edwards says Corbyn is a Marxist. Well, yeah, I agree. I agree. And well, actually, it's pretty interesting to talk about the King of Sweden. He obviously has his flaws with all the stories, with all the women and stuff. I think some of it was probably true. I don't know, but I know that when he was younger, he was more outspoken, and he sounded pretty much like the old right, something like that. He's not that outspoken anymore, not that I know at least. But sometimes I think he should just take control of the army and depose the politicians. But well, that's what I think in my darker moments. Someone has to has to fix this. Let's see. Three Tanker says Prince Henrik was woke. He probably was. I don't know that much about him, but I thought he was a funny guy. Lars Agerbeck, fast cars too. The Swedish king. Yeah, he liked to drive. A. Pinochet says, what's this I hear about the Swedish military moving into the no-go zones? What happened was that the leader of the Sweden Democrats, Jimmie Åkesson, he said in Parliament that you need to bring in the military to stop all the gang violence in the no-go zones. And the Swedish Prime Minister, Stefan Löfven, who is a social democrat, said that that wasn't his first option, but that he couldn't rule it out. What I think is I don't think that Stefan Löfven, the prime minister, really wants to do this. I don't think he's going to do this. But I think he said this because he knows that if he seems too soft now, he is going to lose a lot of voters from his party over to the Sweden Democrats. Because the people who go to the Sweden Democrats they are either old school social democrats or they are the old right, old moderate coalition party, not the new ones, but the old ones. That's kind of an interesting mix because they usually have a lot in common. They have a lot of basic values in common. They might argue about tax levels and stuff like that, but they have this idea that you work for a living, that you pull your own weight. Really basically old working class values that kind of business people also had. I mean, my grandparents had this very much. My grandfather, he was not sick one single day. He didn't have a single sick day from his job And they asked him, "Don't you ever get sick?" And he told his boss, "Only on my spare time." I think that's kind of a funny story. Uh, Free Tanker says, "Do you plan on doing this for a living?" Oh, I'm working on it. I've been working on it for a year, and well, I can't really do this for a living yet, but the numbers are looking better than they did when I started. So yeah, I'm working on it. Aidan Philip Reed says, "I'm going now." Okay, have a nice evening, Mr. Reed. Mark Edwards says, "Is there any chance that the Swedish Democrats will get into power and save Sweden?" I see a small chance. Uh, just yes, a slight chance, but I think in this election the Sweden Democrats might get 30%, perhaps. That's the good. I mean, probably they will get maybe 25%, but they could go up to 30, 35, but no more than that. So they could be. The question is, how large do they need to be before they will actually have a real influence? I don't know. But in the next election, 2022, of course, it depends on a lot of things too. But uh, well, it's possible that they will actually get his own majority if the other parties keep on not wanting to talk to them. A. Pinochet says, "Have you considered a religious visa? Come to us as a Christian missionary or something." I have considered it, and we'll see uh, what's possible. Let's see here. Uh, Lars Agerbeck says, "You know of Jens Ganman's 12 predictions?" No, actually, I mean I've seen some of his his pie charts. I've seen them, but I haven't seen his predictions. At least I don't remember them right now. I don't have them on the top of my head. Uh, I know he used to be a reporter in mainstream media, but I guess he was a freelance reporter, so he just won't get hired anymore because he's too politically incorrect. Supreme Overlord says, "If you could turn into a full news show, it would help a lot, like Tim Pool or Rebel Media." I would love to do that. That would be great. But I don't really know what the future holds to me work-wise. If I'll be a columnist, if I will work at some right-wing media, or if I will actually be able to live through what I'm doing now. I don't know. I'll just see what happens. Pascal of Vlad says, "How many Syrian refugees are living in all Europe? Maybe 20,000. How many Muslims are living in Europe? Around 50 million. So it's not about Syrian refugees, it's about something else." I kind of agree, because a lot of people who moved to Sweden and who moved to Germany and who said they were refugees from Syria, they were neither Syrian nor refugees. But really, this is about Islamization. But of course, Islamization is fueled by Islamic immigration. Tanker says, "Why did Ny Demokrati fail in the 90s, and do you think they could have made a positive impact?" I think the problem with Ny Demokrati, New Democracy, that was kind of a right-wing populist party in Sweden in the 90s. I write about them too in my book, by the way, in one of the chapters. Uh, and I think the main problem with them, because they were pretty good. I mean, they were pretty basically right-wing populist. They wanted less immigration. They wanted lower taxes. They wanted less regulations. They wanted a lot of good stuff. Although they were also pro EU, and I didn't like that, or I don't like that. But this party was held together by one man, the leader of the party, Ian Wachtmeister. So when he left the party after 3 years or so, the party fell apart, and you had different fractions who started fighting each other, and that's why they failed, because they couldn't stay together. I think if they would have been able to stay together, if they would have been able to appoint a new leader, and they could rally around this leader, and they could have stuck together to change Swedish politics, I think they would have made a positive impact, because I know Ny Demokrati, they attracted a lot of a lot of old social democrats, and and also maybe some moderates. But I think they attracted a lot. They attracted a lot of the silent majority in Sweden, and I think they could have. If they would have stayed together, maybe Sweden would not have been in this mess. Let's see. Mark Edwards says you need to team up with Sanity for Sweden to create some kind of regular news channel, YouTube permitting, of course. That sounds like a good idea, but we might need some startup money. We'll see. But I have met with him, and he's a good guy. I like him. Let's see. Puskaso, that's it. Puskaso Vlad says Sweden, Finland, and most Norway, Barnevernet. That's the Norwegian child care, something like that. The authorities is targeting illegal innocent white children to kidnap them in foster care and parents commit suicide. This is insane. No human rights at all. Yeah, the Norwegian children's care, that's really awful. And there is no, they do whatever they want basically. There is no safety there's no legality in this. It's crazy. I mean, I assume you saw the video with the Canadian kid, or well, his mom's Canadian, his dad is Norwegian, but he's a Canadian citizen. I mentioned it last week, and well, we need to talk more about this because this is really Barnevernet, the Norwegian children's care. That's the worst example of socialism in Norway. Actually, it's worse than taxes and regulations. This is the worst part. And sure, I agree. There are a lot of white children, Canadian, Romanian, etc. But not only. I also know. I know that they kind of target anyone they don't like, including Norwegians or whatever. Let's see. Psalm 122 6 says, "Drove the scenic route about no. Let's see. The scenic route along the Mississippi River last spring in southwest Wisconsin." The Mississippi River in Wisconsin. I have to look at the map. Beautiful area. Okay. Lars Agerbeck says, "What do Swedes think about the other Scandinavian countries?" Well, back in the good old days, Swedes would consider the other countries like kind of nice, but like little brother, something like this. I'm not sure about now, but I know that mainstream media in Sweden and Swedish leftists now they think of all their neighbors as a bunch of racists, more or less. They think Norway are racists for for decreasing migration. Well, the Islamic migration. They think Denmark they are horrible. Then they think about. I'm not sure about Finland, but Finland has a reputation in Sweden as being a racist country back from old times. They don't talk much about Finland anymore. A. Pinochet says, "Have a great day. I'll see you around." Yeah, we'll see. I'll see you around too. Jakub from Poland. What about Scandinavian youth? What do they think about Islamization? I think millennials are pretty brainwashed. I don't know about the younger people who are born who are maybe 15, 20 years old. I don't really know. But the millennials I met, they are pretty brainwashed. So they would deny that there is no such thing as they would say there is no such thing as Islamization. Buscaso Vlad, I can ask why Stoltenberg was promoted as NATO General Secretary, while Breivik blasted 77 people when he was Prime Minister in Oslo. Oh, that's all politics. I mean, for some reason I don't know. I guess he was the guy they could agree on. I'm not very fond of Stoltenberg either. The Jazzy one says, the same thing is going on in the UK. There has been some articles about corporations being involved. Every kid they move out of a family generates a transaction. Yes, that's the way they do it in Norway too, as I'm sure you know. And I think they do the same thing in Sweden actually. I'm not sure about Denmark, but I've heard it happens there too. And I think it's really horrible. I'm actually, when people ask me, I tell them I wouldn't want to have children in Norway because of what's going on with Barnevernet, the Norwegian Children's Care, and I wouldn't recommend anyone moving to Norway and have children here because you actually risk that having the children taken away from you for whichever reason. I mean, the kid in Ås in Norway, who's actually a Canadian citizen, and he might be Norwegian citizen too. I don't know, but that kid, he was homeschooled because he was bullied in school, and homeschooling is legal in Norway. Just to make that clear, homeschooling is legal in Norway. It's illegal in Sweden, but it's legal in Norway. Uh, but still, if you live in the wrong municipality, homeschooling your children, you do that, and the authorities might show up on your doorstep, and that's what happened. Yes, the SE one says, because Norway gave 1 billion kroner to Clinton Foundation. Yeah, I know they gave a lot of money to the Clinton Foundation. Let's see. Puskasov Lad says, it's about money. They receive money to kidnap children. Well, yes, basically that's what happens. It's a corrupt system. And they don't abide by the same laws as other authorities. I mean, it's really crazy. So, I mean, that's one of the things that people actually talk about in Norway. But well, a lot of people they won't talk about it anyway, and they will just pretend that it's not a big deal. And Lars Agerbeck says, I heard that many southern Swedes vote the Sweden Democrats because of Danish television, kind of like how Poles were inspired by US TV series Dallas to revolt against communist government. Any truth to this? I don't know. I mean, could be. I mean, it's absolutely possible that people living close to Denmark could get inspired by watching Danish TV, and because the Danish debate is a lot more open than the Swedish one, so it's possible. But I don't know. I see it as completely possible. So I've been on here now for a little more than an hour. There are 35 people watching right now. Thank you all for being here. Without you, there is no me. So I'm very grateful for you all being here. And uh, and also thank you for the donations. I'm happy about those too. I'm very happy about everything right now. I think Jakub from Poland is making a joke now. He says, Never heard of Dallas." Oh, I think you did. Actually, I heard I heard an interesting thing about Dallas. Uh, the reaction to Dallas in the 80s. The reaction was different in the US in the West as compared to the East Bloc. In the US and in the West, they were watching Dallas and they saw these greedy capitalists who were being mean to their workers. In the East Bloc, they saw it with different perspectives. They saw that even the worker had a nice house and they had two cars in the family, and yeah, they saw completely different things. Free Tanker says, "What are you educated as?" Well, I dabble a little in college. I guess you could say that I'm an unfinished theologian. I'm well, I am. What would that be in English? High school economist, something like that. I'm not really sure about that word. The Yassi one says, "Believe me, Polish people had enough of inspiration in daily life to revolt." I'm pretty sure about that. My dad actually visited Poland in the 80s, before the fall of communism. Even he was kind of an old socialist, but he said that things didn't go well in Poland, and he said that this system was not good. But he wouldn't say that socialism was bad. American Bravado says armchair philosopher is the term. Yeah, I guess I could call myself that. So, oh, Steven01001, you're a jack of all trades, master of none. Kind of, yes. In the States, when I was there, I was told that I was self-educated, and I sort of am. I guess I could say that. Uh, that word, I think that concept is more appreciated in the US than in Western Europe. Benjamin Blair says bonsoir. Oh well, bonsoir to you too. I don't speak French, but bonsoir. Uh, and Stephen 01001 says that means you're skilled at many things. Well, I might be. But yes, one says Swede is running empty on furries, looking for a way out. Oh no, I just look away sometimes because well, I just do that. But actually, yes, I have an almost full bottle of furries here, so I don't have to walk over to the fridge or something to get more. But yeah, I'm getting the joke, by the way. Uh, Normally, I would wrap up maybe in 10 minutes. We'll see. Uh, I'm thinking of this as maybe a 1.5 hour thing. Uh, if there's anything you want us to talk about, bring it up in the chat. Okay, volume a little low. One moment. I'll see if I can do anything about that. One moment. Let's see. Let's see how this works. Can you hear me better now? I just moved closer to the microphone. That's what I did. I might buy a new microphone. I've been looking at a few on Amazon. Let's see here. Valhalla Dome says self-educated means free as opposed to indoctrinated. I agree with that. Uh, and Little Sister says not everyone are made the same. Big problem for Swedish schools to understand that. I agree. That's true. And homeschooling is illegal in Sweden. Benjamin Blair says we all know the world isn't going in the right direction. What are our options? I think the option first of all we need to identify the root causes, uh, and the root causes is political correctness. I mean, it's Marxism, it's but it's also political correctness, which kind of is like a child or a grandchild of Marxism. And through this, we got the Islamic immigration going on. Free Tanker says, is the root of the problem feminization? It seems like feminization leads to open borders in Islamization. There is something to that actually, and I'd say this: uh, the problem is that a lot of Western men have been emasculated, or they have allowed themselves to be emasculated. They won't stand up for themselves because they were fooled into believing that if they did that, women would like them because that's what they were told. They didn't realize that you can't just listen to what people say, be they if they are men or women, whatever. You also have to look at what's really going on. So that's a big part of the problem. Little sister says allowed in Åland homeschooling. Yes, I know. Yes, and that's good. I know that there are actually some Swedes who moved to Åland, and for those who don't know, Åland is a province in Finland, but Åland is completely Swedish speaking. Swedish is the official language of Åland, and Åland is a Swedish name, but they use that internationally since it's a Swedish speaking province. And so you don't need to know Finnish to live there, but they abide by some Finnish laws anyway. For instance, that homeschooling is legal. Let's see. Steven01001 says, do you think liberalism is dying off or getting stronger? I think liberalism is going to fail. I think it's going to die off because it has to. But I mean, it looks like they are. It might look like they are winning right now, but they're not, and they know it. That's why the vicious attacks. That's why ad revenue went down from YouTube. All of this crazy stuff that's been going on. It's because they know that they are losing, so they are getting desperate. Uh, the SU1 says feminization or feminism is one of the means of the globalists are using to split us up so it will be easier for them to conquer. That and Islamization, identity politics, and all that. I agree completely. And that's why I am not an identitarian of any kind, neither the left kind or the so called right kind, because what we have to look at are values. We need the same base, well, kind of the same basic values. And that's Judeo Christian Western civilization combined with the Anglo American tradition of liberty, Magna Carta, the American Revolution, all this stuff. That's what we need. That's what I defend. Let's see. Marion Man says, have to leave. Thank you. Well, thank you for being here and have a nice evening. Cuscaso Vlad, they promote feminist movement to encourage white women to separate divorce from men, be LGBT. I think they are promoting a lot of crazy stuff. I think really it's all over the West. In Europe, you will mostly see this with white women because white women they are like the native women in Europe mostly. If you look at North America, at the United States, you will see it both within the white population and the black population because they are. You could argue that they are both now natives to the United States because they have been there for a very long time. Valhalla Dome says the Swedish school system is nothing more than state indoctrination institutes. 100% left teachers, totally failing system. Believe me, I know what I am talking about as a parent. Well, yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I don't have any children, neither in Sweden nor in Norway. I did go through Swedish school though, uh, and mostly the teachers were pretty left. There were always a few exceptions. I don't know about that now. Uh, if they get hired anymore, if they get fired, I don't know. I think it's more difficult now if you don't agree with the narrative. I know there are some people who have been fired from Swedish schools. Lars Agerbeck says, "What do you think about the Catholic Church efforts to fight abortion and preservatives in Africa?" Well, when it comes to abortion, I think we should fight abortion everywhere. Uh, Preservatives, I guess you mean what do you call that? Uh, I'm looking for a word. I guess you mean like birth control. It depends on which kind of birth control it is. Uh, if it doesn't kill the fetus, because if it makes sure there will be no fetus, I'm fine with it. But if it's about killing fetuses like the day after pill, I'm against it. So it depends on what it is. But I'm opposed to abortions. Period. No matter if it's in Africa, in Europe, in North America, wherever it is. I think life begins at conception. The IC1 says, I can agree with so many people here. It's a unique experience these days. Yeah, I know the feeling. That's one of the reasons why I do this, because I get to hang out with kind of my people. Even if we might disagree on some minor points every now and then, we can still find some common ground. Kuskas of Lad says, Vatican Church is lost. Uh, well, I'm not a Roman Catholic, but I think the previous Pope, he was at least, well, what I expect, well, a Catholic or Roman Catholic to be. Well, the new one, he's just some leftist. So I think I might wrap it up now uh, and call it a weekend. So I'll have a weekend, well, at least at least until tomorrow. Oh, Puskas of Lasses, what Pope? Which one? Uh, well, Pope Francis is the one I don't like. Pope Benedict, he was. I believe he was better. I think he was more an honest believer. Sealansen says this Pope is wet noddle jerk. Yeah, I agree. Okay, I'll stay for a few more minutes and look at the chat. Wet noodle. Okay, that makes sense. Lemon Castle says, "Hi, what do you think about all 4 lead members of Britain first facing jail and hate speech charges just for talking about Islamification?" I think that's crazy, and I mean I don't know the details, the nitty gritty of it, but basically it's crazy. I need to look into that story. So thank you for highlighting it. I will look into it and see if I can comment on that in a video or something. Steven01001 says you can't go until we all sign off. Well, I kind of need to do other stuff too, so I'm sorry. Free Tanker says tack for chat. Oh, thank you for the chat. And Valhalla Dome says thanks and have a good evening. Yes, thank you all. Yes, Jan Paul, he was good. So thank you all for hanging out with me and for being here. Thank you for the comments. Thank you for the discussions. Thank you for listening to my rants. Thank you for the super chats. Thanks for everything. And I will do this chat every Saturday at the same time. And I will also do a midweek chat sometime during the week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. It will that's more of a I do it a little bit when I feel like it. But the Saturday thing, that's a given. It will always be at 9 p.m. London time, 10 p.m. Stockholm Oslo time, and so on. It's 4 p.m. New York time. Yeah, it's on my website. You can see it there. But so thank you all, and until next time, have a nice day, and God bless.